President Barack Obama announced the end to a federal program that supplies local police departments with surplus military gear, saying it alienates the public. Hey, conservatives, this might be a sign that he's getting it. It's not the federal government's job to be fortifying municipal law enforcement anyway.
I think what's happening. Propaganda.
See, this is what happens when states and locality get suckered into believing that it's the federal government's job to make provisions for them. As I keep telling folks, you can't be dependent on someone without allowing them to control you. And just as the states and municipalities posture themselves to be dependent on the federal government will position themselves to control you, and will do so with such means as depriving you of things. Cities should be exploiting this opportunity of the federal government withdrawing its overreach. The federal government should only be involved when states and localities are violating the rights of others protected under the supreme law of the land. That is part of what it means to be a United States, that every state acknowledges the God-given rights of man and that they're not to be infringed upon. And if a state ignores these and tries to deprive people of said rights, then the federal government is obliged to enforce the supreme law of the land. Now, if a city needs to use a vehicle that's used on the battlefield to protect its citizens against violent people who are acting like they're out of their freaking minds, then that's their business. But it's their responsibility to come up with that kind of equipment themselves and make it fit for a municipality, not depend on the federal government to supply it. But I will say this. Since the federal government takes the liberty to tax us outside of the original tax model to pay for this stuff, they shouldn't be saying no when law enforcement wants to apply such equipment against crime in their communities. As far as this equipment alienating members of the community, that's stupid. People have been whining about feeling alienated from the cops before this militarization of the police. And despite the community model that police are supposed to assimilate to, relationships between law enforcement and other citizens are strained and snapping. It is very helpful if a cop is friendly, approachable, tactful, even-tempered and all that, but a cop's job is not to be a freaking babysitter. They're not social workers. Too much of society expects people to do things outside of their scope and are getting more bitter for it. You keep expecting all levels of government to do things outside of what the government is supposed to do, and it's only making you more miserable. Your behavior is not the responsibility of the cops to control. You're not a puppet. You're a person who is supposed to have the capacity to self-govern. Yes, we've had abusive cops who have left a bad stain on America. Thank you, Democrats. Yes, the cops who have mistreated American blacks have deeply damaged the American experience. These cops were mostly Democrats. And jump to today. The complaints that people have against racially based police harassment and brutality come from Democrat-controlled areas. And the shallow retort to this is, politics don't have anything to do with it. Yeah, you feel it has nothing to do with it when your worldview comes back to bite you. But when it's convenient for you, politics has everything to do with it when you need a Republican to blame, even though you don't elect Republicans in your area. So you can't blame them because you don't welcome them to have positions in your community. But you blame them anyway. Obama wants to blame the police for the fallout of relations, as if people don't have a responsibility to just act like they got some home training and obey the law. But it's hard to get that solid home training when Democrats have deliberately instituted laws that have broken the home and nuked the nuclear family that helps maintain a balanced upbringing. Now we got generations of people growing up off balance, and you expect the statist teachers to raise kids in place of the parents, and you expect police officers to also be this supplement of what people should have already been brought up with from home? These liberal teachers brought this on themselves. Your loyal Democrat voters that impress upon the youth an entitlement mindset. And these kids take that and feel they can have kids and they'll be taken care of. And then those kids mount up in the classroom as the years go by, and then teachers complain about overcrowded classrooms. Kids raised by a single-teen mom who had no idea how the world works and no father to help balance things out. She was taught by her liberal teachers that she's entitled. Now she's hurt and bitter, and she'll raise her kid with that. And that kid is most likely going to be the one at odds with the law. Yet somehow, it's the cops' fault. Liberals are the ones who keep playing up this apocalyptic nightmare of a police state, yet demand the policies that are leading us into it, and then get mad and blame other people for it. The more you think we're supposed to be dependent on the government, the worse society is going to get, and the more the police will seek to bolster their equipment. And as society gets more bitter, the police will more and more arm themselves, not so much out of protecting the citizens, but to protect themselves. And then you'll have decent police officers who will say, it's not worth it anymore. And those police officers will most assuredly be replaced with people who really do want a sense of power, because the governments will be desperate for law enforcement officers. It's been that way before. It'll happen again. And you're gonna make it happen. I'm Alfonso Rachel with Zoe Nation. Again, you want the police to chill? Then you chill. But a cop's job is not to be a freaking babysitter.